Champagne in hotels, yachts, parties on the beach. Your job life on the Côte d'Azur sounds an awful lot like Emily in Paris. Have you heard that before?
I have heard that before. And I've watched it and I realized, yeah, my job is a lot like that, except I'm on the press side of it. So while it is glamorous and seems amazing, yeah, no, champagne does not pay the rent.
Next.
Ready? Yeah.
In our new monthly series, Chats with Expats, we're going to try to find out what drives people to the French Riviera, how they cope, and what they like about this place so much. Today you're meeting Nicole Ruskell, a journalist from California who's lived on the Côte d'Azur for several years now and who should, if you ask me, write a script for a series about her former life in Liguria, the Italian side of the Riviera. So anyway, Nicole, how did you wind up on the Côte d'Azur?
That is a long story. For this phase of my life, I started because I got an internship with a magazine that you know. So I just finished my master's in journalism, and I saw on our school Facebook page that there was an internship for an English-speaking magazine on the French Riviera. And I had already studied in Aix-en-Provence, and I knew Nice area, and I loved it so much, and had studied French, and so I was like, oh, it's mine.
That's perfect for you.
It's mine. And sent my CV and was picked, and I finished my master's, hopped on a plane, and came down, and then I met you.
We should probably explain, we've known each other for a bit. When was that? When did you start the internship?
2015.
Okay, so for 8 years now you've been living here, and we worked for the same magazine.
Yes, so at the time it was Riviera Times.
Yeah, for you, and Riviera Zeit for myself, a German edition obviously.
Right, so you had the German magazine, and I was the intern with the editor of the English magazine, and it was my dream job. It was absolutely everything I had ever wanted, ever. And I just loved it. And so it was only 3 months, but I vowed, no, I'm coming back for this.
So you were here for 3 months for the internship, and then you went back?
I went back to the UK, and then I went back to the US for a bit, and then I went back to Italy. I never stayed put. And then just a couple years later, I got a phone call that the editor was on maternity leave, and if I would cover, and I just said absolutely, absolutely, and then I wound up staying.
No regrets?
No regrets.
Okay.
No regrets.
But you've already mentioned you were in the UK, you were in Italy as well, now you're in France. So it sounds like you have a thing for going abroad. How's that? Why is that? Has there been any trigger back in your childhood, or how has that?
There was a trigger. So I first got the bug, as a lot of Americans say, the travel bug. I went on a school trip, and it was like one of these crazy European tours where you see 100 countries in 10 days. No, it was I think 3 weeks, and we just went all over, and I was 16, and we went to London and all over Germany. We were in one of those motor coaches, and we drove all over Germany, and then we went to France, went to Paris, we went to Switzerland and Austria, and yeah, it was amazing. And after that, I was just like, I had to travel all the time. And also, I say this a lot, that I'm a terrible American, because I always wanted to be in Europe. I never wanted to stay in the US. I always knew it's not for me. And I'm from California, and I love California. Proud to be Californian. But I knew that it just wasn't for me. And always wanted to be in Europe.
And within Europe, has it always been France the main goal?
I have always been in love with France. I studied French in school. I loved French food. I loved French culture. I always wanted to go to France. And I did. I did my semester in Aix-en-Provence. And then I discovered Italy. And I kind of did an about face, and I just abandoned French and dove into Italian, and yeah, so then I wound up learning Italian and living in Italy. And
But you've been in France for a few years now. Do you feel at home here?
I do. I think I've traveled a lot. I've lived in a lot of places, and this is where I said, okay, I want to put down roots here. I don't want to leave anymore. Even considering my Italian detour, I made it back. It took like 20 years, but I made it back. And yes, I feel at home here, and very, very happy. It's a lot like being in California. It's very similar climate-wise and multiculturally as well, because it's very international here. So it's my perfect place, I think.
That brings us to a little game we have prepared.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you either or questions. You just decide between one or the other, and you get one pass if you really don't know how to decide.
I don't know. What kind of questions you ask?
You're ready for
Yeah,
it?
let's do it.
You'll
Let's go.
see. So, Pacific Ocean or Mediterranean Sea?
Mediterranean.
Hollywood or Cannes?
Can.
I knew you were going to say that. Cannes or Nice?
Can.
We'll get into that later on. Beach or mountains?
Ooh. Beach and mountains. No, Côte d'Azur is beach and mountains. No,
Okay, then that's your pass.
that's my pass then.
See? American openness or French reticence?
French reticence.
Really?
Yes. I'm a very reserved person, normally, which was a little difficult when I was in Italy, to be honest. And a lot of people took it for shyness. But I don't think that's it. It's being reserved. It's being quiet. I am that American open person, but no, I definitely prefer the demure quietness.
Get you. A Côte de Provence rosé or a Californian red wine?
Côte de Provence rosé, for sure.
Fair enough. Mediterranean cuisine or a juicy burger?
You knew that was going to trip me up. A juicy burger.
French Riviera or Italian Riviera?
Both are beautiful. Both are very different. French Riviera, obviously.
French drivers or Italian drivers?
French drivers.
Why is that?
I like to live.
Last one. Italian fashion or French fashion?
My personal style would probably be more French fashion, but Italian style is unbeatable anywhere by anyone. So, Italian fashion.
Italian fashion.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. So you're a proud Californian girl, you say, but also you prefer living here in the south of France.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So much. I mean, I feel at home here because it is like home. The weather, the climate, the trees, the mountains, the sea. But it's softer. I don't know if that makes sense. C'est plus douce. I love the sea. It's warm and it just lightly laps on the shore, which is lovely and relaxing. And when you've been knocked around and twirled and sucked and blown over in the Pacific, which is, and I would always come out with blue lips because it's freezing cold. The Mediterranean's so nice. It's so nice and it's calming, and you just go for a stroll on the rocks or the sand, and the food is incredible. Food for me is probably one of the most important things. The markets, the fresh vegetables, the culture of just going out to cafes and beach restaurants. And oh my gosh, you can actually eat food with your feet in the sand here. It's so lovely. I love it. I love it. And it's just relaxed, and just the French culture of pleasure. I don't think other cultures prioritize pleasure like the French do. And it's so nice.
Yeah, well, that's definitely part of why I am here too, why Anja is here too.
Yeah, and the sunshine, of course, the weather is amazing, the mountains and the sea, and there's just so much more living here. And there's also just appreciating daily life. I interviewed someone who opened an art gallery in Cannes, and he was coming from Paris, and I said, why Cannes instead of Paris? And his first response to me was, look at us sitting here having a coffee in my gallery at 10 o'clock. You know, we can't do this in Paris. You know, you would have probably been running late searching for parking or this or that. And it's just, it's true. There's more time here to enjoy everyday life.
But there must have been challenges too.
Oh, of course.
Give me something.
It's not easy moving to foreign countries, and I seem to have a habit of doing that. But it's also a little bit of perspective for the person, I think, because I moved to France from Italy, and so I hear a lot of people complaining about the bureaucracy. Oh my God, you have to go through French bureaucracy, you have to wait in lines and the paperwork. And to me, coming from Italy, like, it's the same there, but you wait all that time and then nothing happens. Whereas here you wait that time and something happens. And in the meantime, they have things that are online and apps. And I've been very impressed, actually, with having to deal with French bureaucracy. So yes, there's challenges, and language and friends. I mean, there's just the whole list that you guys went through in your previous video of
Okay,
of
so let's go maybe into the language. You had done your studies back in Aix-en-Provence when you were young, and so you had a good basis.
I had a base, but I abandoned French a long time ago, learned Italian, and
She's fluent in Italian.
Yeah,
Like really.
but it's such an easier language than French. Oh my gosh. But so I forgot a lot of it, and I hadn't spoken French in like 10 years. And it was a struggle. It's still a struggle.
It is.
It's still a struggle.
After 20 years, it is.
If you're not born with it, you will probably always have problems. You might be excellent in it, but there's still slip-ups. And even the French make mistakes. and I feel so much satisfaction when a French person corrects another French person. And I'm like, it's not just us.
Then what did you do to improve your French? Just by living
Just
here?
diving in. So I dove in head first. I would listen to talk radio in the morning on my way to work,
Did that too.
just to get used to, having my ear try to catch the speed with which they speak, because you can do basics very slowly and stuff, but when you are in conversation, you need to pick up. It will always be a struggle. I will never express myself fully in French.
Do you think that's, is it sad for you? To me, it's always, I feel a little bit like a baby and not like myself.
I think I'm used to it at this point, and I've just accepted that I'm just going to say certain things in a certain way, and maybe that's being lazy. I don't know. But I've accepted that.
Could you imagine living here without speaking the language, without speaking French?
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people who do, but it's not the same. I think, like you had said, you miss out on a lot, and I have some really great French friends, which we always speak English with each other. But no, it's important. You can do it, absolutely. You can come here and you can speak French, or you can speak English and do fine. But yeah, knowing the language will make it a much richer experience. It'll make it more whole, I think.
Let's talk culture shocks. Do you remember any culture shocks that you encountered when you first came?
No, I wouldn't describe anything as a shock. Differences for sure, most of which I preferred. One thing that still strikes me And I think it's a good thing. I like it. Is the French will always, what's the word? Acknowledge your existence. Like it's etiquette when you walk into an elevator or you walk into a doctor's office or a clinic or anywhere that's a public space, including boutiques. And of course, I mean, that's the first thing you learn when you walk into a shop. You always say bonjour, and you say goodbye as well. Otherwise, it's rude. That's something pretty different, I think, for Americans anyway, because we walk into anonymous stores and big box stores all the time, and you know, there's no personal service. But here, walking into someone's shop or boutique is like their personal space. So you greet them and you say goodbye, and I knew that and I loved that. But when I started living here, being in a doctor's office in a waiting room, to have someone walk in and they say bonjour and everyone sitting there says bonjour, and I was just, to me that's a very anonymous place, like I don't want anyone to know I'm here kind of thing, and if you don't say hello, it's rude.
Uh-huh.
And lots of people, neighbors and things walking down the street will say it, and I like that. I think it's very human.
I would like to talk about the job
Okay.
job business a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what your job is. You're a journalist, we've said.
Our job's amazing. I mean, we get to meet amazing people and go to fabulous events and write about it, and being pressed gives you kind of a pass to the backstage of everything. So the magazines didn't quite survive COVID.
Yeah.
Got canceled, and now we're each doing our own
Learn
thing.
new things.
And I stuck with the luxury magazine idea, and I started Bon Vivant magazine. And
Bon Vivant magazine. You'll see it in the description below the film.
and focusing on luxury things, yachting and restaurants and five-star hotels. And but it's not exactly where I want it to be yet.
For now, it's an online magazine.
It's online now. I really want to do print magazine because there's just nothing like holding a nice magazine in your hands. But yeah, I definitely want to do more personal interviews and portraits of people, because that's what I love. I love interviewing people, getting their story and
Yes.
retelling it. So
Well, good luck with that, I'm sure.
yeah, hopefully it goes well.
It will. There's so much to talk about also.
Yeah, and I mean, this region alone has so much. There's so much to cover, and so many historical anecdotes that happened, and the illustrious past. I mean, there's just never-ending sources of stories here, so I love it.
And you do it in English, or is it English and French?
Currently, it's only English. Also, we have film reviews, because I work with a French journalist who's fabulous and maybe even more American than me sometimes. and she's great. She does movie reviews and series reviews, and so that's her thing. And we come together and put this all together. So just one more thing that I want to mention about our magazines is, you know, we talked about it going out of business, but it was around for a really long time.
It was.
And you were there almost from the beginning with Petra Hall, the formidable Petra Hall, who started everything. Originally in German, right?
Yes, only in German, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You came here for your job.
I did, yeah. And having the job coming here was interesting at first, because I wasn't hired. I had to kind of become an independent, so I had to open my own business like the first week in France, which was difficult with paperwork, and I had help. But the process was simple itself, and just jumped in. Probably worth going into how people can come here by opening a business, because I think being a business owner kind of, it's not a loophole, but it kind of gets you around some of the catch-22s that people run into with residency and bank accounts and things like that, which can be an absolute nightmare. And I didn't have to worry about that because of opening my own business.
We mentioned can a lot during the either or question game.
Yeah.
Why was that? What is can for you?
I love Cannes. And it's funny because when I first came, I really liked Antibes, and to me, I think each one of the towns along the Côte d'Azur has has its own kind of personality,
That's a good
and
way to
each
put
one
it.
is a little bit different. And fell in love with Nice when I was a teenager, and then when I came in my 20s, I loved Antibes. And I had been to Cannes a few times, especially during the summer, walking around, and it's full of a lot of sparkly people in the summer.
It is.
With the Croisette and the five-star hotels right on the water. And so I kind of wasn't my thing in the beginning, but the more I had to go for work and events, and the Palais de Festival is always having things, and we were always going, I really started to appreciate the town. The more I started going to press conferences with the mayor, and the mayor's fabulous. David Lisnard is one of the best mayors I've ever experienced, even living in LA, everything. He is so on it, and watch out for him. He might be becoming more than just the mayor. But yeah, I absolutely fell in love with it. And it's a small city, but it feels like an international world. I think the mayor always calls it the Village Mondial, which is a global village. And it's true, it feels like that. The whole world comes, there's festivals, and the way they handle the influx of 20 to 50,000 people for a 1 week festival, and then it's out again, and everything is constantly changing, and there's so much culture, and there's a fabulous orchestra and wonderful art and museums, and it's just chill too, and it's not the chaos of Nice, because Nice is fabulous as well, but it's a big city, and it's a nightmare to drive in, and parking, and anyway, so I fell in love with Cannes, and I love it,
and you live there now.
And I live there, and je suis cannoise.
I'm totally with you on that one. Anja would be, she prefers Nice, I think. So it's Cannes now, but you used to live in Liguria, in the Cinque Terre for quite a while. And I said earlier on that if I were in your place, I would write a script for a series about your life there, because you've told me so many funny expat stories.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that all
it's
about?
an interesting place. So the Cinque Terre is it's 5 villages. In each 5 individual little villages, kind of all connected with a hiking path, and also there each village kind of has its own personality. But the funny thing is, it's a magnet for the world. Everyone comes there. It's super popular for tourism. But the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, it was a big draw for women to go and fall in love and stay. And so there's about a dozen, at least, that's as far as I know, of foreign women that fell in love and moved there. And it's fascinating, the stories. I did a piece on it where I just interviewed, I think, 8 out of them.
White women.
And everyone's story is amazing. And the one thing that kind of unites them all is they kind of love the person they're with as much as they love the village. And but it's not easy to live there. It's not easy to live in a village of about 300 people.
Because it's really a tiny village.
It's really tiny. There's just one road, and you have to park way up in the mountains and walk down, or take the train or a boat. Like, it's day-to-day life is difficult, and there's cultural differences, and Ligurians are known for being tough people to crack. And it's an interesting place. It's an interesting place. I loved it and I hated it, and I think it's common with everyone. It's kind of this love-hate. It's so beautiful, and the lifestyle is so wonderful, but at the same time, it's really difficult, and you have to give up a lot to live there. And it's something I think everyone struggles with, and it hasn't gone well for everybody. And some people love it. It just kind of depends on how much you take on the life, and maybe how much support you have with the person you're with. But it's definitely series worthy. It's definitely series worthy. Yeah.
Food is another big topic for you. You mentioned earlier you're a foodie.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite Mediterranean dish?
There are a lot of great typical plates here, but by far my favorite is the salade niçoise.
Classic.
Yeah. I love salads, and part of that's being from California, where you order salad and you get a meal on a plate. And that consistently, anywhere you go, is going to have the same ingredients, more or less, and it'll be a pretty good size salad, and I just love it when on hot days and just sit on the beach and order a salade niçoise, and it's tuna and peppers and all black olives and boiled egg and sometimes string beans and a vinaigrette sauce, and it's.
You're going to write the recipe up for us and we'll put it in the
Excellent
description below the film, right?
I actually had the nickname because I love the salad so much my whole life. My brother-in-law would call me Niçoise instead of Nicole. Not because of the city, but because of the salad. So yes, I can't say any other dish than the salad.
Any place where you especially like to eat this salad?
Yes, there is a fabulous brasserie in Antibes, just outside of Old Town, called Le Sud. No, Square Sud. Square Sud. And it's great for people who have a hard time with the closing of restaurants at 3 p.m. and not opening till 7. They stay open
all day?
All day, I think until 11 at night. And they have a fabulous niçoise salad, and you get a plate like this, so it's covered with
Never been to that place.
And tuna, and it's good. And they have fun coffee.
Is there a place, or what place do you still want to discover that you just haven't had the time to see yet? Is there anything?
Yeah, there's so many places, and I think the lavender fields were on my bucket list, and it took me years. I just went this year for the first time.
Good. Did you watch our movie? Our film?
I did, actually. I did. Gorge de Verdun. It's
made a film
so
about
beautiful.
That too.
Yeah, you've made a film about it, and yeah,
you've never been.
Passed by it, but never gone, and
taking the time.
And I would love to, and also skiing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate cold, so I'm not one to just voluntarily go to the snow. But it's cool to just be able to be on the beach and get on a bus and go ski for the afternoon and come back at night. There aren't many places you can do that in the world, and this is one of the few. So,
one last question, Nicole. Would you do it again? Would you move here again?
Absolutely. Without even thinking a split second. I've lived in so many places, and this is it. I love it here so much. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
We hope you enjoyed the show. This new format, Chats with Expats, is coming to you once a month now.